you talk to businesses, they say, we believe in transparency. No, you don't, because otherwise you'd be a better teacher online. You talk to business, say, we believe in treating our customers as we would want to be treated. No, you don't. When you go on a website and you're looking for cost and price, you cannot find it. How do you feel? Well, I feel frustrated. Okay. Do you call that company? No. Do you keep digging on the website? No. What do you do? Well, I keep searching. You search until what happens? Oh, I search until I find what I'm looking for. You don't sit there and say, oh, they're a value-based business, I'm going to call them on the phone. That's not how it works. You don't excuse them. You keep looking until someone is willing to engage you in intellectual conversation and satiate what you're looking for, the desire that you have. A lot of what I teach, people see it as extremely disruptive because more often than not, it's never been done in a lot of these industries.
This is Alex Cleanthus, and today we're talking with Marcus Sheridan, sales and marketing expert, serial entrepreneur, and author of the book, They Ask, You Answer. In this episode, we talk about how to get more customers by producing disruptive content. I hope you enjoy this episode and make sure to subscribe to get the latest episodes as soon as they're released. All right, so today we're talking about inbound sales. So Marcus, are we talking about the B2B space or the B2C spaces when we talk about inbound sales? Let's start with that.
Well, my personal opinion is either one of the two should be able to do quite well when it comes to creating inbound sales if they've earned enough trust in the marketplace, which, ultimately that's going to be the big factor anyway. Do you become known, and do you win their trust? That's the battle we're in every single day.
So the big thing with inbound sales is that I think it's become a lot more competitive over the years, right? Especially since kind of COVID and so on. The landscape has shifted, the assets have shifted, the platforms have shifted. Yeah. So what have you seen as the biggest kind of shifts, I guess, since COVID, in how kind of buyers are consuming content and are purchasing?
Well, I think the biggest shift that's happened really started in November of 2022 with ChatGPT, and what type of disruption that is causing and will continue to cause in terms of this whole zero-click economy, the fact that they're not necessarily going to run through your website every single time. Even if you're doing well from a Google's rankings perspective, you might be losing traffic. And of course, the reason why is people are just getting their information elsewhere, which means, okay, we've got to adjust. Like, how do we find ways to continue to get the eyeballs? How do we get recommendations on AI? How do we do well from a social media perspective? And how do we not just build our house on Google search results? This is really, really important, right? Because a lot of companies, built their house on Google search, and now it's a precarious place to be. Maybe not as, you might not say today, which I actually believe today, yes, but very much so in 5 years. That's a dangerous, slippery slope to be on if that was your business before. And so I think these are the things that people think about. And then, of course, we've got some other trends. Short form video, pretty major trend. Everybody is getting on it. That's what everybody wants now. We got to be very, very aware of that. I think we need to talk about the self-service trend, which is 75% of all buyers say they would prefer to have a seller-free sales experience. So I think we need to talk about that. That's a really, really big deal. So those are a few of the majors that I'm thinking about.
So what do you mean by the zero, what do you call it?
Zero-click economy?
Yeah, zero-click economy. I just explain that quickly.
So perfect case in point, let's say you go to Google right now, you type in a traditional search that before you would have had to click on a link to get to a website. Well, today, you might get that answer right there within Google. Or you might go to ChatGPT and you might get your answer that way. At no point did you make a click, though. At no point did you visit a website. And so, this is why there's just a lot of companies that are saying, I don't understand. My rankings are still strong from an SEO perspective, but we're just seeing a lot less traffic. Well, that's it right there, ladies and gentlemen. They're still ultimately going to your website oftentimes, but, even that will slowly diminish over time. I do think websites have a strong decade ahead of them. So, I wouldn't be thinking yet there's the end of websites, but in terms of building your house on Google, you do have to be very careful about that because of that zero-click.
So where do you see the biggest shifts in sales, inbound marketing content, and so on because of ChatGPT? Like, how has ChatGPT kind of changed the landscape?
Well, if you look at chat, you look at AI in general, what we're seeing is you got the side of zero-click, its effect on Google and on just search. There's that. And then there's the ability of people to produce a lot more content at scale. Now, the issue though is all the tools in the world will not overcome a scarcity mindset when it comes to content production. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So if you've ever read They Ask You Answer, my book, for the listeners out there.
Here's the book here.
Yeah. So if you've read it, it talks about 5 specific subjects that every buyer wants to know, wants to learn about, but businesses don't want to discuss. And these 5, I'll just go through them really, really fast, are pricing questions, problems / objections, fears, worries. Okay, that's number 2. Problems, objections, fears, worries. Number 3, comparison-based questions. Number 4, review-based questions. And number 5, best, most, top. So best-based questions. Cost, problems, comparisons, reviews, best. Those are what we call the big 5. They literally run this economy of search. They've really run it for a better part of 20 years, but most businesses still don't want to address those fundamental questions. And so, for example, 90% of all B2B service-based businesses don't discuss the cost of their product or their service on their website. This is just it's ludicrousy. And we're essentially in 2025 now, and people are still not doing this. It doesn't make any sense at all because buyers want to know. You want to know, if you're listening to this, you expect to be fed when you go to a website. You want to get at least a sense for pricing. You want to get a sense for a price range. You want to get a sense for budget. These are things that you want. Still, businesses don't talk about it. So it doesn't matter the fact that they got ChatGPT. Doesn't matter because they could produce any content they wanted. So most people don't address some of the major fear-based questions that people have about their product or their service. If you've read my book, you know I used to be a pool guy, and I still own a swimming pool company called River Pools in Virginia. And there's a whole set of fears that people have when looking to buy a pool, especially a fiberglass swimming pool, which is what we sell. So, for example, do fiberglass pools pop out of the ground? Do fiberglass pools look ugly, like a bathtub in your yard? Do fiberglass pools crack? See, these are all like negative-based questions. Should you be answering them online? Yes. Do most pool contractors answer them online? No. Why? Because they've got a scarcity mentality. So it doesn't matter the fact they got ChatGPT and a million potential assistants that could like help them produce content right now. They're still too scared to do it, which is absolutely sad. It's pretty ridiculous because they're not obsessed with how buyers think. And so, I teach people how to obsess over the buyer. What does the buyer really want? What is the questions they're asking? What are they fearing? What do they want to know? And are you willing to give it to them?
So you start the process and it's the brainstorm, right, of the questions that the customers are asking. Yeah. So can you talk through that process? Because I think this is the place that it starts. And I like in your book kind of how you speak about actually making content that answers those specific kind of big 5 questions.
Yeah.
Or the big 5 areas, sorry, right? And I think that there's a lot of people who think of content and who think of content marketing, and then they go write like an article, right? Like some type of a thought leadership piece of some for how to do this or the 10 steps to do that and so on. And that seems to set the companies up, I guess, as kind of thought leaders. But the big 5 seem to answer the questions that people have. So this is the first time I've heard actually a person starting content like this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's stunning how many businesses waste time on, quote, thought leadership content that really isn't very thought leadery instead of addressing the questions that buyers actually want to know. And the way the questions they're asking is what are they saying to your sales team when you have that first sales call, when you have that first conversation? It gets pretty fast. Let me give you an example. And just so everybody knows the context, the quick background of this, I started a swimming pool company in 2001, almost lost it to bankruptcy in 2009 because of the crash of the worldwide economy. We embraced this, what I call They Ask You Answer. We would become the most trafficked swimming pool website in the entire world, saved my business, became a manufacturer, sold the manufacturing, totally changed my life. Okay, so that's the less than 30-second story. Now, when it comes to these 5 questions, when I was sitting there in 2009 thinking I was going to lose my business, I said, okay, I've been selling pools for years. What are the biggest questions that I get all the time? And I brainstormed them all out. Now, this is what everybody should do as a healthy activity. Now, of course, today you can use ChatGPT AI to do some of that ideation for you, and that's good. But if you're going to do that, what you should do is you should go to ChatGPT and you should say, okay, here's the business that I have. I want to brainstorm 50 potential article or video titles that I should produce. I want you to use Marcus Sheridan's Big Five methodology. The Big Five are cost/pricing questions, problem/fears questions, comparison versus questions, review-based questions, and best most top questions, right? And if you do that as your prompt and you say, give me 50 good ones, I mean, it's going to slay. And what's beautiful about that is when I was sitting there at my kitchen table in 2009, long before any type of AI that we were using, I had heard these questions for years. Somebody would call me up and say, okay, Marcus, be honest. What's the difference between a fiberglass and a concrete pool? See, nobody was talking about that online because they were like, oh, geez, I don't want to talk about concrete pools on my website because then people will figure out concrete pools exist. I mean, how ridiculous is that? Buyers are not stupid. They'll get the information. Right. And today they can get it faster than they've ever gotten it before. So instead of just saying buyers are dumb, we said buyers are informed, they're intelligent, they're going to get their answers. We would prefer that they get them from us. And so every single person, when I would get on a call back in the day, a salesperson would say, Marcus, I'm not going to hold you to it, but give me a sense. What are we looking at? Give me a feel for cost and price. Like, well, give me a range. And everybody that's listening to this right now has heard that exact same question from a prospect before. Every single one. And what's interesting is, when it comes to talking about cost and price, if you took the buyer's journey and cut it in half, and that halfway point is the moment they talk to a salesperson. At the beginning of the journey, you talk about cost and price on the marketing side. Okay. At the beginning. At the end of the journey with the salesperson, you talk about cost and price again. So in other words, what happens is they say, okay, I think I want to get a swimming pool. Okay, I think I need to hire an attorney. Okay, I think I'm looking at a marketing automation tool. Doesn't matter. It's all the same jam, right? As soon as they do that, they immediately say, okay, I just want to get a sense for, am I in the game here? Can I even come close to affording this? So at the beginning of that buyer's journey, when they start the research phase, when they know they want to buy potentially a thing, solve a particular problem, they start to research price immediately. And then once they've gotten that out of the way, then they start to really move through and start to research companies and brands. Okay. Then they meet with a salesperson, and the smart salesperson gives the complete value prop, and then they give price at the end after they've done solid discovery and basically their clear presentation of value. So that's how it works. Cost and price comes at the beginning and the end of the buyer's journey. A lot of people misunderstand this and they get it all wrong, right? Or they say, we can't talk about it online because it's going to commoditize what we sell. Once again, that's just not how it works. What commoditizes something is when the marketplace isn't educated as to what defines value. If they don't know what defines value, they're going to think everything's the same. They're going to choose the cheapest one. So a lack of education in the market, that's actually what commoditizes a thing. So it's your job as a business owner to make sure that your market is well educated in terms of what defines value. What drives costs up? What drives costs down? Why are some companies so expensive? Why are some companies so cheap? And this other thing about cost and price, Alex, is that I have had hundreds and hundreds of clients, businesses that approach me. And it's amazing how many of them say, I don't know if we can talk about it. And I immediately just say, okay, let's pretend I'm a prospect. I come to you and I say, okay, so roughly, give me a feel. What are we looking at here? And you would say to me, all right, well, I need to ask you some questions in order to give you a feel. What are those questions? There it is, right? Mm-hmm. You're literally now giving me the factors that drive cost up and down in your industry. And by the way, most industries, services, products, B2B, B2C, there's different tiers for pricing. And there's usually 3 tiers in almost every industry. You got a low, a middle, and a high end. Okay, low, middle, high end. And so when you discuss cost and price through video, through article, on your website, online, on YouTube, which you should be, everybody listening to this, there's no excuses, okay? What you should be doing, when you do that, the easiest way to do it is discuss what drives costs up, what drives costs down, why are some companies so expensive, why are some companies so cheap, what are the tiers of pricing and what they look like in your industry. And then finally, after all that, you can give them a sense for what you charge. But you don't have to give exact prices, but you do have to be willing to address the question. You need to decommoditize, folks, because otherwise you're going to have a problem in your space.
That's really interesting approach there. Just you're educating them on how to buy. And they've been talking about that for decades, right? But I think it's a really good reminder in that in this new world that we live in, no one wants to explain what are the costs and the reasons that something costs above a competitor, say, for example, right? But I really liked kind of the perspective of explaining the cost basis is behind the higher end compared
Yeah.
to the lower end product, right? And actually have education around it. This is really interesting thought process,
Wait,
right?
I
And
got to
it's
say
very
one other
interesting
thing about this.
conversation. But it's so interesting
There's,
kind of how you say it, right? Because it's $10,000. It's like, all right, cool. So here's how you think about.
yeah. You are literally teaching them how to buy. Like you said, Alex, you're teaching them how to buy. You stated that very, very well. And so the problem that people, it's funny. You talk to businesses, they say, we believe in transparency. No, you don't, because otherwise you'd be a better teacher online. You talk to business, say, we believe in treating our customers as we would want to be treated. No, you don't. Because if I said to you, when you go on a website and you're looking for cost and price, you cannot find it. How do you feel? Well, I feel frustrated. Okay. Do you call that company? No. Do you keep digging on the website? No. What do you do? Well, I keep searching. You search until what happens? Oh, I search until I find what I'm looking for. Right? Like this is how everybody. This is how everybody works. You don't sit there and say, oh, they're a value-based business, I'm going to call them on the phone. That's not how it works, right? And so if you look at your own behavior, you don't excuse the company. You don't excuse them. You keep looking until someone is willing to engage you in an intellectual conversation and satiate what you're looking for, the desire that you have, right? And it's the same for all these other subjects. So, a lot of what I teach, Alex, it really is just, it's disruptive. It shouldn't be disruptive, but people see it as extremely disruptive because more often than not, it's never been done in a lot of these industries.
I think what happens is that people have been told you need to get someone on the phone, and then you need to sell them the value on it, and then tell them the price, right? But I mean, I think it happens like in so many companies, right? Like especially software companies. What software company says speak to us for pricing? Like literally, I'm going to go to the next software company. There's 1,000 software companies that sell the same thing, right? So it is something that kind of has shifted over the years. I think in the past, I think that people just were more patient in talking to a salesperson about the pricing, but the world has shifted. Yeah. And now, there's like enough companies out there who just put the price on the website. But let me ask you a question, right? When you're talking about price, right? Because this is like, obviously it's a really good kind of topic, right? And this is the one that most companies that are not in e-commerce are going to kind of have issues
Correct.
with.
They're stuck on. If they're not in e-commerce, you're right. And even in e-commerce, by the way, Alex, they screw it up because what they'll do is they'll list the price, but they don't explain the industry and they don't explain the value as well as they should. So even the e-com companies screw this up. So to your point, this is such a sticky thing across the board. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No. I mean, like, it's such a good conversation. I wonder, let's say that you have a website, right? And you have a service of some sort, right? Mm-hmm. Should you put the price on the website? Should you have like essentially all of the questions answered about kind of all the differences, and then at the very bottom of the landing page or whatever, it has the price, right? Like, is that?
Let me give you a couple different.
Yes.
Let me give you good, better, best here, okay, folks. And if you listen to me, I swear, if you listen to me, this is going to dramatically change your lead generation. And like immediately, if you just listen to me here, okay? So what's good? Good is if you have an article on your website, a pricing page, if you will, and let's assume you have one for every major product service that you have, and you explain those 5 keys to pricing. What drives cost up? What drives cost down? Why are some companies so expensive? Why are some companies so cheap? Roughly, what do you charge? Now, if you want to do that right, that's going to be at least 1,500 words. This is not short. This is a big slab of beef that you're really giving them here. You're teaching them a lot. Okay. Now that's good. Better. Do the same thing with video. Best. And this is the real game changer. And keep in mind, folks, as I tell you this, I got the data on this. This is not me just making stuff up. The number one type of content, bar none, subject matter, bar none, with all the companies that I've ever had, they Ask You Answer has sold over 100,000 copies. It has provided my coaching company Impact with clients from all over the world that are applying They Ask You Answer. So it's a pretty popular methodology that people are following. And so when I speak about this is not, this is what I did with my pool company, so I think it might work for you. No. It's like literally tested. And so for the better part now of 12, 13 years, I've been talking to companies, Alex, about how to discuss cost and price online. Well, the next big one, and this is the highest level way that you can discuss cost and price, is by having a pricing estimator on your website. Now, let me give you an example. Because of the success we had with the Ask You Answer, we became a fiberglass swimming pool manufacturer. This means we have dealers all over the United States that install our pools. So how is it possible that we have a pricing calculator or estimator on our website if we don't set the end price? Once again, you give an estimate. So if you go to the River Pools and Spas website, just go to riverpoolsandspas.com, you'll see this little tool that allows you to build and price your pool. Now, you start the journey and it's going to ask you a series of questions. This is what we call a self-service tool. In this case, it's a self-pricing tool. So it's going to ask you all the questions that I would ask you, Alex, if we were on a phone call right now and you said, Marcus, give me a feel. What are we looking at the price here? I'd say, okay, give me a sense for size of pool. You'd say, okay, I'm looking at something, this long and this shape. I'd say, okay. And then I'd say, what type of patio are you looking for? And you might say, okay, I think I want this or this. And I'd say, all right, what type of options do you think you might want? And I'd give you some choices. You say, I want that option. I want that option. I want that option. Okay. So after asking you these series of questions, I'd say, okay, so this was enough for me to give you a sense for pricing. Here's roughly what you're going to spend. You can do that exact same thing on a website, and you can do it with the self-pricing tool. Now, I've had so much passion about this, and I've seen the results so much over the years that over the last few months, I developed a tool called Priceguide.ai. So Priceguide.ai, it is the least expensive and fastest pricing estimator tool on the internet today, where whatever business you're in, doesn't matter the business, you go to priceguide.ai and it says, okay, you want to build a pricing estimator? We got you covered. And you say, all right, this is my industry. And the AI says, all right, if that's your industry, I'm guessing here's all the different services you could offer. Which one of these services do you offer? You say, I offer that service, I offer that service, I offer that service. Okay. Now, once you pick the services, then it says, all right, based on those services, here's the questions I'm guessing you want to ask to be able to give a price or an estimate. And then you can modify the questions, and then you put in the number variables as to what each question represents in terms of a value. And then it gives you the code, you put it up on your website, and you have an immediate pricing estimator on your website. Now, here's what's amazing, Alex. At this point, this product I just launched it a couple months ago, but got about 100 users right now. We've seen crazy stuff. Like within 2 weeks at this one shed company, sold over 200,000 pounds in sheds just from people that have been using the estimator. Because what happens is this. What was really crazy is that, check this out, Alex. This company, this shed company, they had a price list on their website. But as soon as they added a pricing estimator, they got 3x from that point on, every day since then, the number of average leads per day. And their sales exploded. And I said, I am surprised almost, even me being me, the guy that talks about this all the time, that they had a price list, but the price estimator was the thing that took it over. And here's the reason, Alex, and this is why it's so interesting. Because when you're doing an estimator tool and you're answering these questions, it's like you're creating this, you're building this yourself. So the sunk costs go up. And so now you feel a greater sense of commitment and investment in this particular company, in this particular product, in the price that you got for that product. And now it translates into sales. So that's a total game changer. And I will say this, and then I'll shut up for a second. I will guarantee you that 90% of all service-based businesses will have some type of pricing estimator on their website within the next 5 years. Take it to the bank.
Well, I'm going to test this immediately. And I will put the link in the show notes as well. Yeah. So that is
Priceguide.ai.
Priceguide.ai. Priceguide.ai. I'll put that in the show notes as well. Priceguide.ai. So it seems that this level of content is for people who are product aware, right? But if they're not, I guess, at that stage just yet, it's almost like you need to have that just for the point that they start to ask about the price. But what kind of content are the best to capture kind of like awareness on potential solutions, right? Because sometimes, like, yes, it's a pool, but sometimes it's something else. And they didn't even know that they had like a problem yet. So, yes, what types of content can kind of serve that?
But I will say this. Traditionally, where marketers have screwed up and businesses have screwed up, if you look at the buyer's funnel, right? And you've got the bottom of the funnel. They're very informed. Then you got the middle, and you got the top, and you got outside the funnel. And what you just really described is, okay, when people aren't even in the funnel, Marcus, like what's the type of content that you should be producing? And so generally, where everybody should start is literally at the bottom of the funnel, the bottom. So in my case, let's say I talk about, and I'm just going to use pools as the example here, Alex, because it's the easiest. Okay. So the bottom of the funnel, it's every question about a fiberglass pool you can think of. Why? Because they know they want a fiberglass pool. They could have said, I got all these questions about concrete pools, but that is middle of the funnel. So at the bottom, it's all about the product that you sell, the cost, problems, all the big five. In the middle, now it's about that general product that you sell. So this could be about in-ground swimming pools in the middle of the funnel. Top of the funnel might be all about swimming pools. See what we're doing so far, right? So we're getting more and more specific. Now, outside of the funnel, now we're talking about what are some of the problems that pools solve? Lean into those problems, right? So hypothetically, somebody might be researching, should I get an RV? Should I get a swimming pool? That's an example. Or should I get a boat? So you might be doing comparisons about that because people are saying, okay, I know I want to do something nice, get myself something nice like that. Let's say another example of addressing a problem is, hey, I'm looking for ways that I can get my teenagers off their phones, right? As an example. Well, a swimming pool is one of the best ways that you can get kids off their phones. It's just phenomenal for that. I'm looking for ways to spend more time with my family, right? Swimming pool is a great way to do that. And so you have to say to yourself, and this is outside the funnel again, what are all the problems that my particular product or service solves? And once you know those questions, what they are, then you address those. But I always tell people that's last. First is bottom of the funnel, and we work our way out, not the other way. This is just one component. When you do they ask you answer, and you're obsessed over their questions, worries, fears, issues, concerns, naturally, this becomes a phenomenal SEO strategy. But when you apply it outside of just, let's say, your website, and you're doing it on YouTube, and you do it through YouTube Shorts and YouTube Longs, and you apply the same strategy to your social, now all of a sudden you become just very known in the market because you're discussing things that others just aren't willing to discuss. That's disruption 101. That makes you more known. And every piece of content you produce, everywhere that it is, it's a signal. And that signal goes out to two main parties, to the marketplace and to AI. So to the marketplace and to AI. It's a signal to the marketplace of, hey, this is something that this company offers. It's a problem that they solve. And you're getting out there where they are, so you meet them where they are. But in terms of AI, every piece of content you produce, they can consume. And therefore, it becomes a signal to AI that, hey, this is a company that I should recommend. When it comes to search in the future, the biggest challenge is going from what is a world run by Google search to a world ran by AI recommendations. Much, much harder, much harder. And so I can tell you, the companies that are doing they ask you answer, that are producing this prolific amount of content that's just rooted in the buyer and their thinking, their fears or questions, they're getting way more AI recommendations than the companies that are not.
Understood. One more question on the big five topics. How do you talk about competitors? Because I know it's a topic in your book, but yeah, so what's a good perspective? Because there's two sides. Yeah. So on the one side, everyone's like, oh, well, you can't talk about competitors because then all of a sudden, like it puts a focus on them. And on the other side, there are people who only sell by talking about the competitors and how bad the competitors are, right? So I don't think it's either of those. It's what's your perspective of how you talk about the competition in the market?
Yeah. Well, when somebody says, should I talk about the competition? I always say the same thing first. Number one, has your sales team ever received a question about the competition? The answer is absolutely they have. So my philosophy is rooted in this. If the market, if the buyer is asking the question, it's your fiduciary, it's your responsibility to address it. Now, you can't always answer it but you can always address it. This is very, very important to understand. Now, in terms of competition, no, you shouldn't talk negative about the competition. Can't do that. You shouldn't do. I mean, you can, but you should not do that. But what you can do is present the facts. You can present honest descriptions, and oftentimes those are found in review types of content. They're found in best of content. Let me give an example. You know, I used to get asked all the time, when I was just a pool guy, people would say, "Hey, Marcus," let's say I was in Richmond, Virginia, which is a town in Virginia. They might say, "So, Marcus, we like you. We want to get this pool from you. But if we don't get this pool from you, is there anybody else in the area that you might recommend?" Okay. People might ask me that question. They trusted me. I was honest. And so, because people would ask me that question, I'm like, okay, that means I need to produce that piece of content. It needs to go on my website and needs to go online. So I produce an article, produce a video. It's like, who are the best pool builders in Richmond, Virginia? I literally came up with a list of pool builders, like lists of my competitors, and I would talk about them. And the information that I would describe them came from their website. And so I'm literally just using their own words to describe them. I might not sit there and praise them up and down, but I'll just give just basic facts about this company, maybe how long they've been in business, what they specialize in, right? Little things like that. Now, by the way, one thing that's these best of style articles now, these are actually really strong when it comes to AI recommendations. And whereas it used to be before AI, I would tell people, don't put yourself on the list because it'll sound biased. Now, because of AI, I tell people, go ahead and put yourself on the list, but just make sure you do it in such a way that it doesn't sound self-serving. And this
Not
way, when
first.
AI is scraping, don't just put, you can put the top 10 such and such companies in your town or area, whatever it is. You can do that. You should describe it, but you should do it very honestly. And I wouldn't rank them. I would just say, here's the top 10. And we are putting ourselves on the list. And the reason is because we have, this many reviews and this is our criteria. And it's not meant to be self-serving. We're just trying to be as honest as possible. But we've listed 9 others that you can also consider. That stuff you don't see anybody doing. Well, if they've read the Ask You Answer, but most people are not doing that. And I've been talking about like trying to teach companies how to talk about the competition for years. And it's just so phenomenal. And keep in mind, you have direct and indirect competition. So, for example, as a fiberglass pool company, a concrete pool is competition. So I should be talking about it's a competing product. But then I've also got competing companies. Playmore Pools in Richmond. They're a competitor. I've written plenty about Playmore Pools. Nothing negative though about them because I'm not going to put myself in that precarious position. And if anything, they're going to say, "Hey, thanks for that." That's all they're going to say. And so, yes, this is outside the box thinking, but the rule breakers eventually become the rule makers, y'all.
So when you talk about that specific competitor, how did you talk about it?
Literally went right to their website. I got some just general facts on them. So I would say something like, so Playmore Pools has been around for 20 plus years. They're located in the Mechanicsville area. They specialize in vinyl liner in-ground pools, and they also have heavy emphasis on automatic pool cover installations. Like literally, that's what I said about them.
But do you then do some type of a comparison article between them or some comparison content? No, you're just kind of talking about the top 10, top 10 in the area. You could.
Yeah, but usually when it comes to like people compare fiberglass versus concrete, but when it comes to companies, they're researching the best, right? And so that's how it normally is. And the article itself or the video itself, it can compare them, but you just want to do it in a way where you're not saying, "Hey, we're better," right? They're worse. You want to do it in such a way as like, here's what they say about themselves. Here's their specialties. Here's where they're located. Here's how long they've been in business. Just basic things that are inarguable.
Got it. Understood. And I had so many parts to talk through, but I'm going to just, I'll keep it kind of high level. You also talk about converting that content into videos, right? So to write content, I think is hard for most people, but most people can do it, right? And they can publish. When you tell someone, "Hey, make a video," they like freeze, they get stuck. They have to think of a production company. I don't think they're thinking about the handheld style kind of content that's happening across all of the shorts platforms and so on. But, so what do you recommend as a place to start? Just for a company who's saying, all right, so I've got my video, so I've got my articles, I've got my content, it's in written format. I heard I should do some shorts, some TikToks, whatever.
Yeah.
What do you recommend to them?
Okay, first off, you mentioned, I gotta backtrack just a little bit because I'm gonna disagree with you, Alex. You said that writing's difficult. Today, I don't believe that's the case. And let me explain how you can solve this if you're just, a business owner just trying, you're like, man, I'm not a great writer though, Marcus. I agree with Alex. Okay. All you have to do is you can get an AI tool like VoicePal. So how VoicePal works is you have a core question and you just talk to VoicePal. Literally just talk to VoicePal. And like you would to a customer, it's going to record everything. And it's going to transcribe it. What VoicePal does well, though, it asks you additional questions. And so you get asked these additional questions, and then you continue to talk out loud. Once that's all done, then you take the transcription that it gives you, you put it in Claude, which I believe is better than ChatGPT at the moment for writing content. You put it in Claude 3.5, and then you say to it, and use the paid version, y'all. Don't be cheap, okay? You have $20. Spend it. Don't be a slacker. Okay, you put it into Claude and you say to Claude, listen, here's the transcription for this particular question I'm trying to answer. How much does a fiberglass pool cost? I want you to take this and I want you to clean it up. I want you to maintain my voice, right? I want you to reference our company. I want this to be unbiased, as I've described. Go ahead and turn it into a great piece of content. And now, bam, AI took all of your thoughts like a ghostwriter, like you would have if you had like a content writer that worked for you. But now you're not just going to AI with nothing and saying, hey, AI, go make this article. Shame on you for that, sucker. But if you do it like I just described, you can be a dang good writer all of a sudden. People think you're Victor Hugo. Because if I came to you and if I said, are you good at answering your customers' questions? You'd say, yes. Now, you might not say you're a good writer, but you would say you're good at answering their questions. And so all you have to do is answer the questions. So VoicePal is the name of that tool. Very good tool. Listen, I'm full of tools today, and I'm just making your life so much easier. You can thank me later. Now.
Oh, thank you now from everyone. Thank you, because these are really cool tools. And this, I would just go back and listen to that last 3 minutes and just start something now, because I think exactly what you explained can be done in 10 minutes, right? You talk for 5 minutes, you sign up to an account, you make the prompt and you have the transcript, boom, done. So in 10 minutes, you can just see at least how good this advice is, right? And I think it's pretty good. So please continue.
Staying good, bro. All right, good stuff. Thank you, Alex. Now, in terms of video, listen, video is one of those things where depending on the size of your company, you would scale this up, but everybody, regardless of size, you need to think like a media company. Did you hear me there? You need to think like a media company. And what this means is you're saying to yourself, I can't just say it, I got to show it. And everything I do as a business is worthy of showing. Producing visual storytelling, i.e. video, right? Everything is worthy of showing. Everything is a story that you do. A lot of people, they don't realize that. And so where can you start with video? Well, generally, I tell people start with those big 5 questions because they're phenomenal, and just answer them with video, and then post that video on the platforms that are most aligned with your industry. B2B is probably LinkedIn and YouTube, and B2C it's probably potentially TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube as well, right? So that's how most people do it. The thing about video is this. A lot of people say video is not my thing. Well, too bad, because the marketplace doesn't care about your opinion, doesn't care about my opinion, doesn't care about our feelings. The marketplace says, I want to watch a video. Nobody's ever been to your website before and said, you know what? I bet he or she gets pretty nervous on camera, and that's why I don't have videos that I really want to see. I'm going to forgive them, and I'm going to give them a phone call right now. That's not how it works.
True story.
That's how it works.
No.
What they say is, man, this sucks. Can't find what I want. I wish I could see it. Let me see if I can go find a video on YouTube. That's what they do, right? And so it's your fiduciary to meet them where they are, not where you are, where they are. It's the buyer's journey. It's not your journey. It's the buyer's journey, right? And so once we give into that, that's why it's called they ask, you answer, right? It's the same principle. Obsessed with the way buyers think and act and behave and search and all these things, man. That's what I spend my time doing. And all the business owners that do this, they are just dramatically further than the market, than the competitors. So that's where you want to start with video. And also, let me give you just a couple other videos that I would produce if I was you that get big results. One is what we call the 80% video. And the 80% video takes those most repeated questions that you always hear on a first sales call, and it addresses all of them in one video. So you want to take every major product or service that you sell. All right. And it's like, let's say you sell 5 major services, and you're like, all right, if we get on a first sales call, what are the questions we know they're going to ask every time? All right. List them out. Choose 7 to 10 for each one. Create one video that addresses all 7 to 10. That's it. That's what you do. We call that the 80% video. Now, the key to that 80% video is that you send it to the prospect before you have that first sales call. Now what happens? Well, you've eliminated 80% of the questions that they normally ask. Now they're not going to ask you. They have already known it because they heard you teach them. And now you'll spend less time teaching, more time selling, which is the purpose of a sales call. The problem is a lot of people, they think it's called a teaching call. No, no, no. It's a sales call. All right. A teaching call is the type where you talk to an hour with them and you're like, man, I really think we got a connection. And they don't buy from you. Right? And that's because you haven't done great education beforehand. Remember, 80% of the buyer's journey is done before they even reach out to you. So the majority of the education is already done. Hopefully, they're just learning that from you. So that's why the 80% video is really, really powerful. Let me give you one other video that slays. And that is a landing page video. Landing page is any page of your site that has a form somebody can fill out for the context of this discussion. Now, here's the thing about forms. When people fill them out, there's 4 major fears that people have. Number 1, what are you going to do with my information? Number 2, are you going to call me to death? Number 3, are you going to spam me to death? And then number 4, so if I fill out this form, what is this process going to look like, right? So this is what they think. Your job is to know what they think and to address it directly. So you create a video, and that video has a title that you put next to that form, and it says, see exactly what will happen if you fill out this form, literally. And then you say to them, okay, you're sitting there right now and you're saying to yourself, should I fill out this form? Well, let me explain to you exactly what's going to happen if you fill this out and what we're going to do with your information and how we're going to follow up. Now, if you do that, all of a sudden, everybody's going to lean in like, what? I can't believe that person did that. I love this company. They're so honest. Okay. So that is the landing page video they slay. And generally, it increases your conversion rates about 80%. That's real data, folks. So, I mean, we've already given so many nuggets, Alex. This person is like, they were saying, okay, I'm picking up what this old pool guy's putting down. They've got enough content ideas for the next 6 months. And if you just did what we've talked about, you're going to become one of the most known and trusted leaders in your market. I promise you. I promise you. Except the problem is a lot of people are going to listen to this and say, that was kind of cool, but they're either going to say, that won't apply to me because I'm such and such, which is the bane of innovation. It is the bane of excellence. When you sit there and you say, oh, yeah, but you see, Marcus, our situation is different. That's not the way that it's always been done. You know, we just can't do it like that. That wouldn't resonate with our market. I mean, come on. This is psychology. This is human psychology. That's all marketing is. And so it's the companies that don't sit there and think we're so different. Those are the ones that are most successful. The ones that are like, I'm telling you, our buyers ain't like anybody else. Our product is so niche. All right, we have such a bespoke solution. These are the things that cause like the death of all innovation.
This is fantastic points. Just one quick one on the video side of things. I think where people can often get stuck is on the production quality. How produced should a video be? And what happens if a company that has a good brand starts making what they believe is low quality videos? You know what I mean? Like kind of the TikTok style things right now. There's some that edit them a lot, but I mean, like how rough can a video be? Let's put it that way, right? Or how, what's it called? How non-polished can a video be?
Well, part of this, of course, is an element of branding, but I would just say, let me give you some general guidelines. From a production standpoint, if it's a 7 out of 10, we're going to push it out there. But from an audio standpoint, it needs to be probably a 9 out of 10. So hypothetically, you could do plenty of videos with your iPhone, which is better than any camera, by the way, that was in Hollywood 25 years ago. I mean, you could do amazing. But I would get a more advanced mic so that you've got good, clean audio, because the brain has a ton of patience with the visual side of it. In fact, it's okay. I mean, we watched The Office for years, one of the biggest shows in the history of the world. And that's like the people, you record that with your iPhone, y'all. I mean, seriously, that's iPhone production level. But you got good audio. You got good audio, right? Got good cuts, right? Got good storyline. So that's really what matters the most. Good storyline. And so don't get so caught up in production. The companies that are, have their nose up high and it's like, that's beneath our standards. They're the ones that are not doing squat. And this is why you got all these, millionaire 16-year-olds running around, because they just are busting out their phone saying, okay, I'm going to send it right now. And wow, oh, look, it resonated with the marketplace. So good audio, decent video, send it.
I love that. I love that. Where are we at? Oh, time is flying. One more question. I don't know if this is going to be a short one, but can you quickly explain assignment selling?
Oh, yes. I can't explain assignment selling. This should be a Google for all y'alls out there. But let me just give you the quick story. So some years ago, I was looking at my website analytics, and I was comparing two groups of people. Both had filled out a form on our website and said, I'm going to get a quote. One group bought, one group didn't buy. So I said, what is the difference, behaviorally speaking, between the ones that filled out a form and bought versus the ones that filled out a form and didn't buy? And the number 30 just kept jumping out. And that number 30 represented total pages viewed. Here's what we found. If somebody read 30 or more pages of the website before the initial sales appointment, they would buy 80% of the time. If they didn't hit that number 30, the closing rates were about 25%, which was industry average. So literally there was like this hockey stick growth in closing rates if they just consumed 30 pieces of content. So what does 30 pieces of content represent? Goes back to that sunk cost. It's like every piece of content they consume of yours, video, article, tool, whatever it is, it's like you're going on another date with that person. And if you go on enough dates with somebody, eventually what's going to happen, you're going to consummate the relationship, right? It's the same thing in sales. That's how it works. And so as soon as we discovered this, I'm like, oh, my goodness. So you're telling me if I just get them to consume 30 pieces of our content, they're going to buy 80% of the time? Oh yeah, it's game on. And so I came up with this model called assignment selling. And so how assignment selling works is very simple, but a lot of people don't do it correctly because it takes a little bit of practice. But what you do is, if I'm talking to you, a prospect, Alex, I would invite you to consume content before the meeting, but the key is how you do it. It's got to include three things: what the assignment is, why it matters, and when it's due by. So it would sound something like this. And notice I'm not just going to say to you, hey man, I'm going to send you some videos before our meeting on Friday. It'd be great if you could give it a look-see. No, that's not selling. It's definitely not assignment selling. So assignment selling looks something like this. So you say to me, hey, Marcus, I'm checking out your website. If you come out to my house, give me a quote, in this case, for a swimming pool. Now I say, using assignment selling, Alex, I'd love to come out to your house, but you're getting ready to spend a lot of money. And if you're going to spend a lot of money, I know you don't want to make any mistakes. And so as to make sure you don't make any mistakes, I'm going to make sure you're well educated. So I'm going to send you two things as we're talking on the phone right now. And you're going to love these two things because really going to answer a lot of questions that you have or that you should have, but you probably don't have answered yet. Now, the first thing I'm going to send you is a video that shows you the entire install process, like when the pool shows up to your house, excavation, when it goes in the ground, the patio around it, the cleanup, the whole nine. And this way, when I come out to your house, Alex, you're not going to say to me, so Marcus, what does this process look like? Now, time out really quick. That just saved me 30 minutes on my sales appointment. If you watch that video, 30 minutes saved. Okay. I'm trying to save time. All right. Less teaching, more selling. Now, the second thing I'm going to send you, Alex, is a buyer's guide. This buyer's guide is great because it's going to answer all these questions about pools that you should have, but you might not know the answers to yet. Like, should I get a heater with my pool? What's the best type of heater? Should I get a cover? What's the best type of cover? I mean, it goes on and on into these details, talks about the mistakes you can make, etc. Now, this guide, it's about 30 pages, but I promise it'll be well worth your time. So, Alex, will you take the time to review these things before our appointment on Friday? And you say yes, and then boom, voila. If you do the homework, I'm going to close it 80% of the time. But you notice it took me about 4 minutes to describe clearly the setup there, right? Which is what the assignment is, what's in it, why it matters to you. And then I finished with, will you take the time to review these things before our appointment on Friday.
And this is the conversations with the prospective client, and
Yep.
you're giving them little assignments, I guess, kind of as
That's
it goes, right? But you also mentioned there's 30 kind of pages like in that example. So therefore, that assignment, it's one of a number of assignments like across a period of time. Is that correct? Because they have to have consumed 30 pages roughly, but then there's assignments as well, but they still haven't consumed the 30 pages yet. So is that like?
So all depends on your what would be your traditional, how the sales process and buyer's journey work together for you. So, you might have a situation where you send out a basic assignment before the first call, and then you might always have a second call. You might have a design call. It just depends. And so like you take my agency Impact, there's like multiple stages to that. And so with each stage, there's a corresponding assignment that we know we're going to give that's going to prep them for the next call, make them more prepared, increase those sunk costs, increase their allegiance towards us, and make everything more efficient. It's a win-win because it saves them time and it prevents mistakes. It's a win for us too because it saves time and it prevents bad fits.
And so in the ideal world, you're kind of outlining the customer journey, like all the steps in the process, and then you're making content according to the big five across each step of that journey. And then you're giving them assignments as they go along that journey. Mm-hmm. And it is leveraging all the content that has been produced so far. Is that kind of the
circle of life, Alex? That's it, brother. There it is.
All right.
And they are just so invested in you by the end. They're like, everything I've ever learned about your product service, I learned from you, right? Yeah. I feel like I know you already, right?
Yeah.
That's the stuff that you want to hear. That's what we want.
I love that. And from the content perspective, the key is to be disruptive by talking about things that other people are not talking about. How much is the price? What's the competitors? How do I make a buying decision? Speak to me about the industry overall. Like talk about the things that other people are not speaking about, because that's the disruption. Is that right?
Word. It's say what others don't say, show what others don't show, and sell how others won't sell. That's really what we discussed today.
That's awesome. This is such a great conversation. All right. So how do people hire you to help them with this? Because obviously, for people who are thinking about this but aren't sure the place to start, start with the book and read at least 30 pages. No, I'm just joking. No,
that was good. I like it, Alex.
Start with the book. But then how do they get in touch with you? And who do you service the best?
So reach out to me on, first of all, connect with me on LinkedIn if you're listening to this. Let me know, I heard you on Alex's podcast and you sound a little bit nutty, but I decided to connect with you anyway, right? So that's a good place. You can email me directly, marcus@marcussheridan.com. That's my direct email. I always give that out, which is not very scalable, but I do it anyway because I just, I love to interact with the world, right? And the people out there. And I've got a company called Impact. Our website is impactplus.com. And I also speak all over the world. And you can find my speaking website. It's marcussheridan.com. So those are how you can find me. But LinkedIn is a good place to start. So connect with me there. And I'm pretty dang good on LinkedIn. I put my best stuff on there every single day during the week for the most part, 4 to 5 days a week. You're going to get something good from me. And you're like, that dude, he thinks a little bit differently. I like how he makes me think too.
Fantastic. And I'm going to put all of these links in the show notes. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Such a great conversation. And I really like the twist on content production, thinking and topics and so on. And I think this is going to be extremely valuable just for everyone who just is making content, but who's just not kind of just nailing it. And so thank you so much for coming on the podcast and just summarizing the approach so well. Thank you so much, Marcus.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Growth Manifesto podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. For more episodes, please visit growthmanifesto.com/podcast. And if you need help driving growth for your company, please get in touch with us at webprofits.io.